Good morning to all of you and welcome to the session, the Hindu Editorial Analysis for Proficiency in English. Today's editorial is all about an exception to the rule, and it talks about uh, providing yearly extension to the heads of CBI and ED. It's all about that. A little complicated, not easy to understand. The sentences, the sentence patterns, the words, a little complicated. You got to listen carefully and you have to read twice or thrice. Only then you can understand. And besides the editorial, and not too many words, today's editorial about 10 to 15 words, not more than 15, I suppose. And some of these words are quite familiar. We have got many a time. Besides this editorial, the words and phrases related to important from the exam point of view. Today, you're going to work on practice questions based on exam topics. You're going to work on errors, fillers, and also para jumble as usual, based on the time factor, the editorial words. Now, let us go to the vocabulary from today's editorial. As I said, this goes with the constitution, the government, and the appointment or extension of uh, the heads of CBI and ED. Some of these words are a bit difficult, and some of the sentences lengthy, not easy to understand. What is the first word over here? Compromise. The word compromise goes with everyday English, and everyone knows the word compromise. But here it has been used, compromises the autonomy of something. It means what? It dilutes the autonomy of someone or a particular office or a particular post. So, to allow your principles to be less strong or your standards or morals to be lower. So, compromise the autonomy means what? The autonomy may get diluted. You have to take in that context. Otherwise, the word compromise is a simple word, it goes with everyday English. Autonomy, autonomous institution, autonomous considered or deemed autonomous, the ability to make your own decisions without being controlled by anyone else. Autonomous means independent in a nutshell. This is an important word. Dictum, a formal pronouncement from an authoritative source. In other words, dictum is nothing but a law. You have to recollect the word statute, a written law. And regime, we have got many a time. A government, especially an authoritarian one. When we use the word regime, it has a negative, subtle negative connotation. It means a government that is in power. It also means especially an authoritarian one, authoritarian in a way like dictator, autocrat, not exactly, to some extent authoritative. It has a subtle negative connotation. Bar has many meanings, you all know, but in this context, bar means to prevent or prohibit from doing something or from going somewhere. Bar someone or something means prevent or prohibit. An entirely different meaning. Helm. Actually, it goes with a particular idiomatic expression. Someone is at the helm or something is at the helm. Usually, it's a person in charge of a company or organization. He is at the helm means what? He is at the top. He is in charge of a company or organization. Personages, it's a new word we have got for the first time. It refers to persons. A person used to express importance or elevated status. It talks about the importance or elevated status to express that. Superannuation again has many meanings, but in the context of the editorial, it is this meaning to become retired or to get retired. To retire because of age or infirmity. If you guys remember, we got this word yesterday. It means what? Weakness, either physical or mental. And beholden, a new word. And my suggestion, whenever we come across new words, do remember you have to spend some time, make your own sentences and examples, and revise twice, thrice. Then only you can remember. Otherwise, not practically possible to remember. Beholden, we have got for the first time. Owing thanks or having a duty to someone in return for help or a service. You feel that you owe something to someone and you would like to thank, or you feel there's an obligation. In that context, we use beholden. Completely. We have got this for the first time. Decline. Decline, one meaning to come down, to get reduced. Another meaning, politely refuse. He has declined the offer. Means what? Politely refuse. Abide usually takes a preposition by, we have got many a time. Abide by rules and regulations means what? Accept or act in accordance with a rule, decision, or recommendation. But usually we use abide by rules, law abiding citizen. These expressions you have to remember. Detrimental, we have got many a time. Something that is harmful, that causes harm, or something that is dangerous. Doctrine, this is also an important word, though we got once or twice. A belief or set of beliefs held and taught by a church, political party, or other group. In a nutshell, doctrine is a philosophy. And beach has got two different meanings. One meaning goes with a dam or a wall. There's a gap, a crack. We use the word breach. But in this context, the second meaning, what is the second meaning of the word breach? To break a law, to go against law, to go against a promise, to go against agreement or relationship or contract. So these are the words, and not too many words, as I said, and some of these words are quite familiar. And I would like to tell you guys again, this goes against the government, and it is a stand taken by the editorial, and very complicated, not easy to understand. You have to have the background information. An editorial like this without background information, it is not easy to comprehend or understand. How does it start? It starts with exception to the rule. You all know quite often I say English has rules, English has exceptions. So we talk about rule. A rule is a rule for all. There's a saying in English. What is it? A rule is a rule for all. That means a rule is applicable to everything, everyone. But we do have exceptions. So it starts with exception to the rule. Then you should understand what is a context and what is a rule and what is the exception. When you read the editorial, you understand all that. And what is the main idea of this editorial? Allowing yearly extensions. This is the main thing, allowing yearly extensions to heads of CBI, ED in place of fixed term like 2 years or 3 years. In contrary to that, allowing yearly extensions to heads of CBI, ED will compromise their autonomy. There are two important words over here. One is compromise. They have come in for a compromise. They have compromised. This word goes with everyday English. We all know the meaning. But in this context, compromise means to allow your principles to become less strong or to lower your standards or morals. Here, compromise their autonomy. Compromise in this context means to bring down or dilute an autonomy, autonomous institution, a typical combination. Autonomy means what? The ability to make decisions independently. You're not dependent on someone and you're not answerable to someone. Autonomy, autonomous, being independent, and to have the ability to take decisions on your own. So two words are there. Let us go to the editorial. As I said, this the main idea of the editorial. There's a rule and there's an exception to the rule, and this talks about in place of fixed term 2 years or 3 years, allowing yearly extensions every year, 1 year extension, 1 year extension. Editorial feels when you provide that option, there's a danger. What is a danger? Imagine there are two. At the fag end of the editorial, it talks about that. Imagine the tenure or the period is for 2 years or 3 years. You know for sure you are not going to be touched, you are not going to be removed. Based on that, if you're a person of principles or values or ethics, you will stick to the stand you have taken and you will try to execute your ideas, whatever. But if it is extension every year, then the element of doubt prevails. Am I going to get the extension? Am I not going to get the extension? And you're always at the receiving end, and there's a dilemma whether it is going to be extended, not extended. Because of that, you may not take bold decisions. That danger is there. Editorial talks about that. The new law, as I said, every time the editorial comes up with the paper, the Hindu or any newspaper for that matter, the editorial is written based on a stimulus. That means a particular incident, and based on that, the editorial comes up with the background information, the good and bad related to that particular incident or event, and also the solution. So let us go to the background information or the specific incident that has triggered this particular editorial. The new law, as I said, something new, something that has happened in the recent past. The new law authorizing an extension of the services of the heads of the Central Bureau of Investigation and the Enforcement Directorate until they complete a total tenure of 5 years will seriously compromise the autonomy of those agencies. Now, this talks about the tenure. There's one word tenure. Tenure means what? The time period. Imagine you got a post and we ask a question, how long is it? What is a tenure? How long is a tenure? Means a time period. So this talks about the new law. What is a new law? Authorizing an extension of the services of the heads of the two organizations, CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, and ED, the Enforcement Directorate, until they complete a total tenure of 5 years. I think actually it is 2 years, now it is 5 years, will seriously compromise the autonomy of those agencies. And this also based on yearly extension. That one has to remember, not a fixed term of 5 years. 2 years, then yearly extension, but complete a total tenure of 5 years. And the editorial opines this particular law, the new law, authorizing an extension of the services, will seriously compromise the autonomy of those agencies. Again, the word compromise and autonomy means what? The independence, the ability to take independent decisions, that will come down, that will be restricted, and it is going to make a negative impact. Compromise in this context is a negative word. Seriously compromise autonomy of those agencies. The entire editorial is based on this idea. It goes against the spirit of the Supreme Court. Now it provides a background information. It is not a good thing, the editorial opines. Why? Justification. It goes against the spirit of the Supreme Court judgment in Vinith Narayan versus Union of India 1997, which laid down a dictum that the directors of the CBI and the ED should have a minimum tenure of 2 years. Here, minimum tenure of 2 years. Now, yearly extension goes against this spirit, goes against this particular thing. Now, goes against something, goes against an important expression to remember, but those we'll see later. The spirit of the Supreme Court judgment in a particular case, what is that case? Vinith Narayan versus Union of India 1997, which laid down a dictum. There's an important word, dictum. Dictum means what? A formal pronouncement from an authoritative source. In a nutshell, dictum is nothing but a law. This talks about the law that goes back the year to 1997. This was to prevent why 2 years term. Now here it talks about the law and the spirit of the Supreme Court judgment. What is it? Which laid down a dictum that the directors of the CBI and the ED should have a minimum tenure of 2 years. Why this minimum tenure of 2 years? Now the editorial talks about that. This was to prevent a sudden transfer out of office if their functioning goes against the interests of the regime of the day. This is an important expression. Now, what is the logic or what is the rationale behind 2 year term? This was to prevent their sudden transfer. Imagine they go against publicly state. Pronouncement means to state something publicly, to declare something, to state something publicly. Pronouncement, nothing to do with pronunciation, a different meaning altogether. And to prevent the sudden transfer, imagine a particular officer goes against the government, there's every possibility they may get transferred. To prevent that, usually it happens quite natural. To prevent the sudden transfer out of office if their functioning goes against the interests of the regime of the day. A regime, an important word. The government that is in power, that is ruling at the time of speaking, and especially an authoritarian one. Here, regime of the day means the government in power. While it did not specifically bar longer terms of or extensions, the prospect of getting an annual extension, this is the root cause, can be an incentive for displaying regime loyalty in the discharge of their duties. Now, what are the implications of this? It talks about the Supreme Court did not specifically bar longer terms or extensions. Bar has a different meaning, so many meanings, in fact. In this context, prevent or prohibit from doing something or from going somewhere. While it did not, the Supreme Court did not specifically bar, prohibit longer terms or extensions. It said minimum 2 years, 2 year term. It did not bar or prohibit longer terms or extensions. The prospect of getting an annual extension. Now imagine from 2 years it has been taken to 5 years, but not one shot. It is based on annual extension. And what are the implications of that? The prospect of getting an annual extension can be an incentive for displaying regime loyalty. Every year, there is no guarantee you are going to get extension or not. Then what happens is a possibility of the officer being loyal to the regime in discharge of his or her duties or their duties. So, because it is on annual basis, the possibility is there, the editorial feels. Annual extension, this is a root cause, can be an incentive for displaying regime loyalty in the discharge of their duties. Significantly, importantly, in the case of the present director of enforcement, now it takes a particular example. Uh, Significantly or importantly, in the case of the present Director of Enforcement, S.K. Mishra, who was appointed for 2 years in November 2018, his services were extended by an order on November 13, 2020, which amended the original term of appointment from 2 years to 3 years. That means he got 1 year extension. Based on that the changes were brought in through the ordinance route in November raises a doubt whether the government is keen on retaining him at the helm. This is a phrase, an important idiom. At the helm means at the top, to have the control. That the changes were brought in through the ordinance route in November raises a doubt. What is a doubt? Whether the government is keen on retaining him at the helm. Given that the central agencies have drawn much criticism, the central agencies, the editor talks about two agencies, for their focus on personages linked to opposition parties, such a measure will be seen as a reward for guided functioning instead of a necessity to keep the ongoing investigations on track. A bit difficult to understand, but it talks about annual extension, yearly extension, and what is the implication, what is the negative impact, likely negative impact, given that the central agencies have drawn much criticism. Now it says the central agencies have been criticized for what? For their focus on personages. There's a new word we have got. And personages, it means what? A person used to express importance or elevated status. Focus on personages linked to opposition parties, the status of opposition parties. And such a measure will be seen as a reward for guided functioning. Guided functioning is not acceptable. Instead of necessity to keep ongoing investigations on track. These two central agencies are very important and they should always be on track. But here it raises a doubt, and there's a possibility as a reward for guided functioning. That means what? Under the guidance of the government, but it is necessity, it is a must to keep ongoing investigations on track. As it is, the fixed tenure for certain posts means their superannuation. Now, here the editorial talks about the aspect of superannuation, and that means in this context, retirement and extension period. As it is, the fixed tenure for certain posts means their superannuation, their retirement within that period will not end their term. Imagine someone has to retire during that term. It will not end that within that period will not end their term. They can continue. In effect, there is an implied extension for an officer appointed to one of these protected posts if the appointment comes within 2 years of of retirement. So, what does it mean? Implied extension. Imagine 2 years extension, 2 year term of fixed tenure of 2 years, and during that tenure, he has to get retired. But in a way, he gets that extension. He doesn't have to, he or she for that matter. A further extension that will take the officer's services well beyond superannuation. Then what happens? He doesn't have to leave the office based on the retirement factor. He can offer his services beyond the superannuation, beyond the retirement. A further extension that will take the officer's services well beyond superannuation, that to 1 year at a time, not one shot 2 years or 3 years, 1 year at a time, will render the heads of two investigating agencies unacceptably beholden to the government. This is again the editorial talks about the negative impact or the implications of this annual extension. It says that it goes beyond superannuation, and also this will render the heads of two investigating agencies unacceptably beholden. We have got this word for the first time. Beholden means owing thanks or having a duty to someone in return for help or a service. Annual extension always at the receiving end. Based on that, unacceptably beholden to the government. They may thank the government, or they may feel there's a duty to the government for them to do. Also in Mr. Also in now it talks about the same case. Also, in Mr. Mishra's case, the Supreme Court declined. In this context, generally decline, the number is declining means what? Coming down. In this context, decline means politely refuse. Also, in Mr. Mishra's case, the Supreme Court declined to interfere with the 1 year addition to his original term of appointment, but also said extension of tenure granted to officers who have attained the age of superannuation should be done only in rare and exceptional cases. Now, here it talks about this particular aspect, exception to the rule. Remember, it started with that. So it is possible 1 year extension, it can be done, but it should be done only in rare and exceptional cases. That's what the stand taken by the Supreme Court. And that the further extension should only be for a short period. They can extend in rare cases, but not for 1 year. That should only be for a short period. This was a stand taken by the Supreme Court. It also made it clear that no further extension shall be granted to him. That means to Mr. Mishra. It took a particular stand. It is possible that the government will abide by this order. An important word, abide by. And do remember, it always takes a preposition by. Abide by, follow the rules and regulations. This particular order, and not give the benefit of the amendment to Mr. Mishra, but it does not render the act of authorizing year-on-year extensions to future appointees any less detrimental to the public interest. Now it says in the case of Mr. Mishra, it may go with the court. It will abide by this order, the court order. But when it comes to appointees, future appointees, this act may be detrimental, less detrimental to the public interest, any less detrimental to the public interest. The same idea is being reiterated. The protection given by a fixed tenure. Now it talks about something related to the fixed tenure. What are the benefits? The protection given by a fixed tenure and the use of a high ranking committee to recommend appointments and transfers were meant to dilute the doctrine of pleasure implicit in civil service. As I said, this editorial is not easy to understand. You need background information. Here, doctrine of pleasure, this has been taken from when Britishers ruled. They implemented this doctrine of pleasure. Based on that, they have taken this, and today in our constitution, we have this doctrine of pleasure implicit in civil services. What does it mean? Actual meaning of doctrine of pleasure: the queen, the crown appoints a civil servant, and the civil servant can be in service as long as the crown wants to. The crown doesn't want, then the services can be terminated any moment, any time. It talks about that. So this sentence says if there is a fixed tenure for 2 years, that will dilute the doctrine of pleasure implicit in civil service. That means 2 year tenure, the government cannot touch the civil servant, they cannot be removed. In a way, it dilutes this doctrine of pleasure. However, it may be breached. However, contrasting information, it may be breached. Means what? Violate, break a law, promise, agreement, contract, all these. If the extension allowed in exceptional circumstances becomes a rule, there is an extension, but this extension it is allowed in exceptional circumstances. If it becomes a rule, then definitely it is going to be nothing but a breach. So it ends on that particular note. As I said, not easy to understand, a little complicated. You got to listen very carefully, and you have to read twice, thrice only, then you can understand. This is not, in a way, it is important. You may get as a passage in prelims or mains, but you may not get in the descriptive paper. They may not ask you to write about the judiciary. That is a bit the government and the judiciary, the executive, the legislature may not go with banks and SSC. Civils, there's a possibility. Now let us have a look at the phrases, prepositional combinations, idioms, all these, and not too many today. Extension of something, extension of the post, extension of a particular thing. Here you have to focus on the preposition of. Compromise autonomy. The editorial used this particular expression. It compromises autonomy of those agencies. Means what? It makes the autonomy. it brings down the standards, it makes autonomy, it dilutes the autonomy. That means they cannot function independently. That's what it means. Go against the spirit, go against the government, go against the spirit, go against something. No, no, I cannot answer now. Let me complete this. Go against the spirit of. Lay down. This is very important from the exam point of view. Already have learned the confusing verbs lie and lay. Lie, lay, lain as an irregular verb. Regular verb easy to handle. Lie, lied, lied. And lie can be a noun. But lay, laid, laid. What are the meanings? I have told so many times. Lie has two different meanings. One is to be in the horizontal position while relaxing, the other one to be in a particular state for a long time. Lay, laid, laid, to put something down. Usually it goes with things, babies, eggs, foundation stone, rules and regulations, law, all these roads. So in this context, laid down a dictum, laid down a law, an important expression. Tenure of someone or something, a particular post, tenure, the duration, tenure of the post, a particular post, usually. This is a good expression, regime of the day. This is a standard phrase. What does it mean? Regime means a government that is in power, and also of the day at the time of speaking. Prospects of, prospect of, you can use singular or plural, but here you have to remember the preposition. And discharge of one's duties, it goes with duties or responsibilities. Again, you have to remember the preposition of. Extended by, the verb extend, it takes a preposition by. Extended by 1 year, extended by 2 years, whatever the time period. Bring in means to bring about, to make some changes, bring in something, make changes, an important phrasal verb. Brought in, they have used in the past. Raises a doubt. This is again very important from the exam point of view, because rise, raise, many a time we have got very confusing, but grammar knowledge helps. Rise, rose, risen, intransitive verb and irregular verb. It cannot take an object. Raise, raised, raised. A regular verb, transitive verb. Raise what? A doubt. So let us go to at the helm, an important idiom. At the top, controlling position. At the helm of affairs means controlling everything. Something is on track, something is off track. I use quite often the phrase, you have to be on track all the time while preparing for competitive exams. In effect, again important, and you have to recollect affect, effect, two different. One is a verb, the other one usually used as a noun, but it can be a verb, that is it goes with formal English. Further extension, extension, further extension, going beyond a particular this thing. A student raises a doubt for a short period, for a long period, for a short period, standard phrases. This is very important. Abide by, they have given many a time in different competitive exams. Detrimental to someone or something. Detrimental, causes harm, dangerous, harmful, important expression. Very useful, all these. Now let us go to questions based on your comprehension ability. Comprehension means understanding ability. What is this editorial about? Not easy to write. You got to spend a lot of time. And what will seriously compromise the keywords, compromise the autonomy of those agencies, CBI and ED? What can be incentive for displaying regime loyalty? Look at the expressions, very useful expressions. Incentive for displaying regime loyalty in discharge of their duties. Discharge of their duties. What raises a doubt whether the government is keen on retaining Mishra at the helm? All the keywords you can navigate, locate, and write the answer. What will dilute the doctrine of pleasure implicit in civil service? This is very difficult to understand because you have to know what exactly does it mean. It goes with Britishers, British law, the crown, the queen. The queen wants the civil servant to be in power, he can be. The queen doesn't want, he cannot be. So doctrine of pleasure. But 2 year tenure, that will dilute this doctrine of pleasure. Now let us go to practice questions based on exam topics. Please have a look at the first 5 questions. Go with error location. Try to spot the error. Let's see how it goes. abide by, comply with, compliance. Noun form is compliance. That's an important word. Try to find out how now who is this interfering in between our new courses on Unacademy for SSC only. I'm not. I deal with SSC. I'm not into banking category. Who is this Sinha? As of now, I belong to SSC category, not banking category. But soon I'm going to start descriptive English, and that is going to be useful for SSC aspirants as well as bank aspirants. Very good. Who is this Surya John? First one, I think some more students, Yashashvi also. The third regional security dialogue on Afghanistan held here on Wednesday called urgent humanitarian assistance to the Afghan people. Called, it is not correct, it should be called for. What is the meaning of the phrasal verb called for? Demanded. If the situation calls for, call for means demand. The situation calls for means what? It demands. So call for, very important phrasal verb. There is an error in the third part, not in any other part, and the question is based on a phrasal verb. And do remember, phrasal verbs under pressure not easy to handle. You got to have all of important phrasal verbs at your fingertips. Only then you can answer. Please go to Ganesh. Thanks for what? For the descriptive paper, descriptive English. Where is the error? No one has responded. Second question based on error location. Okay. How come no response here? Nothing wrong with the SCCL's mines rescue teams. Rushed to the spot, no problem. From where? From Ramagundam and Mandamari, and extricated the bodies. Students may think something wrong with the word extricated. Nothing wrong. Imagine someone's body got entangled. With great difficulty, you take out that, then we use the word extricate. Extricated the bodies of the four miners after an operation that lasted for more than 4 hours. Here, this is actual sentence from the newspaper, from the Hindu paper, but there is one conjunction. What is the conjunction over here? After. There are two actions. First one, the operation lasted for 4 hours, more than 4 hours, and after that, they extricated. You may take that way, but it is not something like one after the other operation. Then they took out the bodies. Based on that, here there is no error, absolutely no problem. Answer is no error. Go to question number 3. Both of them in their 40s were not able to spell words the way they used to be, and had partially lost chewing ability. This is, if you read carefully or meticulously, easy to answer. That is right, Vani. No error. Please go to question number 3. Very good, Yashashvi. I appreciate that. Both of them, nothing wrong. In their 50s, in their 60s, nothing wrong with that. Were not able to, past, were able to, were not able to spell words. They were not able to do something, nothing wrong. The way they used to. Here we should not use be. Nothing to do with be, used to be. The way they used to means what? The way they used to spell words, it's understood. We should not use be, and had partially lost chewing ability. There is an error in the third part. Be should not be there. The way they used to do something. So please go to question number 4. As a city expands and encompasses more peripheries in the form of new developing colonies, one feature that sticks out is the omnipresence of speed bumps. That's right. Remove B, I have removed. Please go to question number 4. Where is the error? This is a bit difficult. You got to read very carefully. Only then you can answer. No one has answered. There is an error in the second part, that is right, but sticks one feature that sticks out, nothing wrong with that. Second part, it is not new, it should be newly, newly developing colonies. What is it? Newly developing colonies. Not new developing colonies, newly developing colonies. It is based on word forms. Not easy if you're not aware of word forms. Otherwise, it is easy. Newly developing, newly appointed, newly, we have to use newly, not new. New developing colonies is not correct. Please go to question number 5. It is true that mitigation from south alone will not make the difference required to stop this catastrophe, but burning more coal will not necessarily solve the problem either. What is the answer? Question number 5. Exactly. Early 40s, late 40s, in their 40s, all the three can be. Oh, very good. Who is this? Ramesh. It is true that mitigation from south, you don't have to go beyond the second part. When we talk about the directions, we have to use a definite article, the north, the south, the east, the west, the south. Answer is there is an error in the second part, the south. In a question like this, you don't have to go beyond. You know for sure there's an error over there. That's it. Has anyone got all the 5 correct? All the 5 correct, outstanding, highly appreciable. Please go to para jumble. 4, highly appreciable. 3, 4, all the 5 outstanding. That is good, good enough. Good. Please spend your time on para jumble. A bit difficult, not that easy. Oh, who is this? Fine. One or two also, don't get discouraged, don't get disappointed. Tell yourself today is not your day. Sometimes it happens. And also, slowly, when you spend a lot of time, you can master anything. It's a matter of time. 1D, popular narratives play a much bigger role in economic policy making. Very good. D is the first one. Perfect. And there's a clue for you for the second one. Popular narratives play a much bigger role, comparative form. Then you have to look for the part that has the word than. Where do you find the word than? Bigger role than, more important than. Very good. Obviously, A. And here, I'm sorry, B. Where do you find this? B. First one is D, then B. Not A. Than, where is the word than? B. So here it is, first one is D, second one is B. How can we decide D, B? A much bigger role, comparative form. Then we have to look for the word than, a much bigger role than economists and policy makers acknowledge. D, B is the right one pair. Then what is the next one? Here it talks about narratives. Then you have a demonstrative adjective. If indeed these narratives, not E. Look at C. If indeed these narratives are grounded more in myth than reality, the impact of such policy can be devastating. So here it should be C, devastating, and there's no full stop here. Anyhow, let us not consider the punctuation. Popular, if indeed these narratives are grounded more in myth than reality, the impact of such policy can be devastating. Next, what? The demonetization. Huh. No, it should be, next one should be F. DBC, that is right. After that, F. One example, the demonetization of high value currency in India in 2016 is a classic case of policy based on faulty narratives. Oh, I think it should be C. After that, F. Paradoxically, EF easy to make out. No, let me see. Paradoxically, the failure of the policy does not appear to dent the narrative, and consequently, there is very little price to pay for its failure. For sure, it is a D, B, and EA. Now you have to decide between FC or CF. You have to decide. No, 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 no. It should be F. Paradoxically, the failure of the policy does not appear to dent the narrative, and consequently, there is very little price to pay for its failure. You have to consider EA, and based on that, DB one pair, EA one pair, you have to decide CF or FC. If indeed these narratives, here it talks about narratives, these narratives are grounded more in myth than reality, the impact of such policy can be devastating. So it has to be C, then example. What is the example? The demonetization. F is the next one. Yes. I think Ramesh got it right. D, B, C, F, E, A. That is the correct order. PRO level or PO level. Sheikh Nagul. You mean to say PO level? Please go to, uh, yes, that is right. Go to the pillars. An important of Indian business has been its short-term focus. Not easy. Extensive reading, you will be able to make out. An important venture, no, no. It is not venture. Definitely not venture. Why venture here? No, 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 no. All of you, same wavelength. An important draw, an important neglect, an important venture. Because of business, you must have thought venture. No, an important figure. An important failing, drawback. Failing means what? A drawback. An important, no, let us substitute, let us use the word drawback. An important drawback of Indian business has been its short term focus. Based on that, failing answer is the fifth option. I'm really surprised. Now I see Suresh Kumar says fifth option. That is answer. An important failing of something, an important drawback. Please go to the second one. Venture is not at all relevant. You guys must have thought venture based on Indian business. No, no. You have to read the sentence, understand the context only then. I got it. I got it. Mira, Nagul Mira, I got it. Thank you. Please go to question number two, Phyllis. The internet may not everything we do. Please don't be hasty. Read the sentence carefully, understand the context. Some of these are from actual previous year's papers. You can understand the standards. The internet may not everything we do, but it has already revolutionized business and will continue to do so. May not mark not correct, may not prove everything we do, may not help everything we do, may not stop, may not change. No, 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 no. The internet may not change everything we do. Only certain things it may change, not everything we do. But it has already revolutionized business and will continue to do so. Change, understand, all these questions are based on what I tell you guys, contextual awareness. How do you get contextual awareness? If you read a lot and read what the Hindu paper, the headlines, the editorials, and once a week international magazines like The Economist, then you understand. 1 second you can get. You don't have to read the second time. These two examples that Indian companies are capable of acquiring a global mindset. Question number three. Please go to question number three. Third option. No. Yes, Kokila Devi has got it right. These two examples demonstrate, illustrate. So here the right word illustrate. When you read the sentence, based on the context, before you go to the options, these two examples that Indian companies are capable of acquiring a global mindset, you don't have to see the options. Before you see the options, you should think of words like these two examples show, these two examples demonstrate, these two examples illustrate. Then you see the options, you see the word illustrate, you know for sure that is the answer. As simple as that. And you can reach that stage if you read regularly the newspapers. Otherwise, you may go off the track. There's an old idea in economics that if a rich and a poor country are, by trade, their standard of living should converge in the long run. Converge means to meet. Illustrate means to show, to demonstrate. Illustration, to show something, to demonstrate something. Illustrations, painting, drawings, illustrations, illustrate, show, depict, demonstrate. All these words you can think of. Please go to the last one. There is an old idea in economics that if a rich and poor country are mixed, not correct, away, not correct, similar, not correct, meeting, not correct, linked by trade. They are linked. How? By trade. Let us go to the last one. All countries have consumer price indices, important. Index, singular. Plural can be indexes or indices. Some more reliable than others, some quite out of date, but all concerned with overall price changes. Concerned with what? That is over. You have to go to the fifth one. Second option, measuring. No, no. Reducing. Price changes you cannot reduce. Price hike you can. Only 60 minutes, more than enough. You will get so much. Read the Hindu paper, headlines, and the editorial. One editorial, enough. 60 minutes, and do it for 6 months. I will give in writing, not one job. You will get three or four. Any bank exam, including SBI PO, and many of my students, they have achieved because of this particular habit, the habit of reading the Hindu paper, headlines and editorials. They could get SBI PO one shot, three, four, no exaggeration. Here, controlling, reduce prices is different, but here, control. It is not publishing, not teaching, they are not related to the context. Control price changes. That is the right word based on the context. Now let us go to yesterday. I could not bring idioms. Today I have brought idioms and one or two phrasal verbs as well. What is the answer? He put across his ideas to the minister. Put across your ideas means what? See, all these questions are very easy. You don't need any preparation. I know some students, they go take the exam, they come out and say English part very easy. And on what basis? They read the newspapers, magazines. For them, no preparation. They usually spend 15 days to 20 days on English, that too, or let's say a month, just to brush up the basics of English grammar. But all the questions related to passage, vocabulary, cloze, jumble, they don't spend time because they read the newspaper regularly. They find everything familiar, easy, and they say it was a cakewalk. So effectively conveyed. Answer is the second option. Very good. Go to the next one. What time is it? Today we can complete. He knows the ins and outs of the case. Effectively conveyed is the answer. Yes, of course. That's what I've said. Effectively conveyed. It is not made available, strongly expressed, laid aside, not relevant. He knows the ins and outs of the case, of the issue. Answer is entry and exit. No. Separate ways, a route. Full details. To know ins and outs of something, to have the full details. Exactly. That's right. Who is this? Sri Satya. You have to, SBI, the toughest, obviously. But do remember, when it comes to SBI or IBPS, especially PO level, it is not grammar, it is not the shortcuts. What matters? Your reading comprehension skill matters. Mains completely based on reading comprehension skill and vocabulary. How can you master these two? First question, how long does it take? To master reading comprehension skill and vocabulary, you need 6 months. That too, provided you read the Hindu paper every day, consistently. Then nothing can stop you, no one can stop you. You can get 20 plus. And one of my students, she got 37.5 out of 40 SBI PO English. And we have a video also. Imagine getting 37.5 out of 40 English. That could be the highest at the national level. SBI PO. She got the job, obviously. And they all read. Many of my students, they started reading the Hindu paper, and almost all of them, they got the jobs. Not one, two or three. What is pull a rabbit out of a hat to do something unexpected? Answer is the second option, not the fourth option. Going against the grain. Where is this? Have you answered? I haven't. Going against the grain. Sure, I will do that. Sri Satya. I will do that. Going against the grain means what? Fourth one. Huh. She became very popular. Not he, she. Could be the highest at the national level. Let us go to doing things differently from what you usually do. Answer is the first option. That's right. Let the chips fall where they may. For you guys, see, you're all pretty young. You can achieve so much. You have the potential, you have the caliber, and you are dedicated, you are diligent, you are intelligent. All these should fetch the job. But one thing is essential. What is it? A reading habit. If you make reading a habit, definitely nothing can stop, no one can stop. Reading habit and reading what? The Hindu paper. Do it for 6 months to 1 year. That's enough. What is the answer for fifth one? We are running out of time. We have only 4 minutes. Second, let the difficult situations in life, no, no. Let something happen without bothering about the consequences. Answer is the fourth option. Very good. Anil has got it right. Let something happen without bothering about the consequences. That's all for today. Because of the time factor, I could not bring editorial words and meanings that particular slide. I'll try to get tomorrow because nothing to stop if you don't stop for anything. Okay, fine. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for being with me. It's almost 8. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And do remember to subscribe and share, join the Telegram group. And I'm going to start something new features, the Telegram group, very useful from English proficiency point of view. And also work on important questions after the session. I'll provide the PDF. I know, I know. Sometimes it happens. In the past, it happened. Now they are taking from the Economist magazine, especially SBI. Thank you very much. Who is this? Meera. Thank you very much.